Welcome to the Jock Podcast. I'm John.
Nick.
And as you can see, we have a guest on today.
Woo!
We're a friend. We're talking through mental health today, all things, and we'll dive deep into it. But for now, I'm going to let our guest introduce himself.
My name is James Granberry. I am a mental health counselor.
Yeah. So we're diving deep today on all things mental health, from men's mental health to things that you should be aware about, to even some deeper conversations that we've noticed as, you know, we're all getting older and growing up and kind of just trying to accomplish things. As you can see, we got the tattoo, we've got the necklace, and we got the phone case. Big Detroit guy, huh?
Yep, originally from Detroit.
Born and raised Detroit?
So it's kind of a long story, but essentially I spent the first 10 years of my life in Detroit.
Okay.
And then my mom relocated us to Minnesota, where I spent like the next 7 years, which is, you know, my teenage years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Eventually I went back to Detroit. I graduated high school. I went back to Minnesota.
Okay.
And then I came down here in like 2012.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah. I moved around a lot.
Yeah. So you spent a lot of those developmental years, Detroit, Minnesota.
Yeah. That was probably some of my most formative years, man.
It's always a piece of you then, huh?
Always a
Like,
piece of me, man. You
Yeah.
know, and for me, I have so much pride just because of, I don't know if you guys have been to Detroit recently or seen how it kind of looks, but
No.
I definitely feel like I'm blessed to be able to make it out of there, man, and be able to be in the position that I'm in right now. So
speaking on that, when I met you, first of all, how old were we? We were young.
Dude, I was 21.
21. I
So-
was probably a little younger than you.
Yeah. How old are you now?
31.
31. So yeah, I'm 34. So yeah, you were
Okay.
18.
Wow.
Yeah,
It was like your senior year of high school, I want to say.
And we were in the gym, and it was like 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
We just started talking, and next thing you know, became friends.
No, you asked me, you was like, anybody ever tell you like Jay-Z? And I'm like, since I moved here, I mean.
You were by yourself, and that was just what?
Yeah, that was the thing. I think I was leaving, and I think he was coming in.
Was I by myself?
You were by yourself. Yep.
That's a crazy thing to
funny.
ask
Yep.
at the gym.
Yep.
By yourself.
Yeah.
It all makes sense, though.
Then he asked me if I wanted to, did I rap? And I'm like, yeah, recreationally.
Mhm.
And I think you invited me to a cipher with
Yeah,
with
yeah.
you guys behind, was it Food Line or something like that?
Back in the day.
Yeah, behind Food Line. And ever
And we-
since then.
We got real okay, and then we had multiple connections though, so it wasn't just that.
Yeah.
So this is
My
a
mom-
big weird like
Fun
yeah.
fact, shout out to Nina.
Shout out
I
Nina,
told her
man.
that you were coming on this podcast.
Love Nina.
I don't even think she's listened to an episode yet. Maybe she has. Mom, I hope so.
Yeah.
But she said, send me the link when James is
Wow.
So my mom loves you, as you know.
That's what
You
it
guys
took,
have
huh?
This and I know. But even like for her, I know like she has been so blown away. You guys just connected again at Nick's wedding and talked. So blown away from even like your adult development.
Yeah.
So follows everything like that too. So that was a Kohl's connection. We talked through our Kohl's
So
connection
then
last time.
my mom, Nina, has gotten everybody a job at Kohl's. I worked there, you worked there,
Mhm.
my mom worked there, James worked there, so everybody knows James
Yeah.
from Kohl's. But so when speaking of work, I remember meeting you, and we were all young and dumb, most of us. And I remember, I know I was an idiot, and I wasn't exactly what you call focused in multiple facets of my life. You, however, I always remember you grinding. You were working 3 jobs when, everybody else was doing stupid shit. We'd be
Mhm.
wanting to hang out, wanting to go do stupid shit, and you would be like, "Nah, I gotta go work."
Right. Yeah.
How was that, and how'd that pay off for you?
Well, the payout's been great. I mean, obviously where I'm at now,
Obviously.
but there was kind of a reasoning behind that, right? Where reason I left Minnesota was I was getting in trouble. I had gotten in trouble with the law, to be honest, and so I was looking for a new opportunity. I needed something to correct kind of what I had done in the past,
Yeah.
and so Nina actually played a huge role in my development because when I first got here, through the blessings of God, I was able to get a job at Kohl's. But after that, I wasn't able to get a job anywhere traditionally.
Okay.
And actually, it was a breaking point where it was like a year after I got here. I tried to get a job everywhere. And then I went to go apply for McDonald's. I've been bugging this McDonald's. Hey, give me a job, give me a job. They finally hired, well, they didn't even hire me. I went to do the orientation thing. And when they looked at my application, they stopped. And my heart dropped because I already knew what that meant.
Yeah.
At this time, I had a felony on my
Yeah.
record. And so they ended up telling me that, hey, we couldn't hire you. And I remember breaking down crying that night because it was like, damn, obviously no one really wants to work at McDonald's, which is no issue at all, no shot at anyone. But I remember the day before, or maybe a week before, Nina had said something about delivering pizzas. And so the next day after I cried. Sebastiano's, man.
Wow,
Shout out Tommy. Sebastiano's, I ended up hitting her up and say, yeah, I do want to go through with that. And that was kind of where I realized that, okay, I have to find opportunities in a non-traditional way where I can't necessarily go to a corporate job at this point in my life. I have to go through word of mouth.
Yeah. So what do you think contributed? Because like that level of maturity you had, honestly, way past all of us. And like, you know, I don't know about your other peers, but I know like our group of friends, you were way ahead of us. What do you think contributed to that? And what made you so focused on like, I want more out of my life and I'm going to make this adjustment now?
Right. Well, to be honest, at that time in my life, I was in survival mode, man. Like that time, I was in complete survival mode because at that time it was like, I don't have any more opportunities. This is probably about it. You know, I came down here to live with my older sister. She's 4 years older than me. And so I knew that, again, it was far few and in between. And at that time, this was probably my second felony. So I got my first felony, which I don't have all these felonies anymore. But I got my first felony when I was 17 years old. Okay. And then I got that second one, I was 21 years old. Yeah. And I remember when I was in jail, it hit me and I was like, hey, I got to change my life, or I got to show people that I am more than my record. And so I remember being in the cell and they had a GED book. It was a math equation book or whatever. I remember doing math equation problems and shit. Wow. You know, that's when I was like, hey, I got to go back to school. I got to get my stuff together. And so that's kind of what was the driving force behind it, man.
Wow. That's amazing though, because you could have taken either turn, I'm sure, right? When you're sitting in the jail cell at 21 on your second, even after McDonald's, when they don't hire you,
right,
you could have easily gone back to that same route. Instead, you took the route of 10 plus years proving, one, that's not who you are anymore.
Right.
And then proving to everyone else, like, hey, if you take a chance on me, it's going to pay off.
Right.
Right? So you're working through the work ethic. Then what happens for you? Do you continue in your studies? Like, how do you get to where you are now? Because not that working at Kohl's is a bad thing, and for you it was a lifesaver.
Yeah.
In general, like you're like working your way using Kohl's, delivering pizzas, however you're working.
Yeah.
How did you use that to like get to where you are today?
Yeah.
What does that transition
look
like?
Well, part of it was I was doing a lot of those jobs. One year I ended up having 6 W-2, or was it W-2?
Yeah.
Wow. 1 year I had 6 W-2s, man.
That's
but
crazy.
I realized that quickly, like, man, you can't really make a living like doing this stuff. Like, you gotta have probably some type of degree, or you have to be some type of business savant, or you have to know somebody. Well, I didn't have anybody I knew. I didn't have the business savvy part. I knew I had grind and effort. And so I remember one time it was one of my homies named David Purcell. We were in his car, and I remember telling him, like, man, I have to grind. I have to work really hard to get wherever I want to go. So long story short, about a year or two that I was here, I think it was 2014, I ended up applying to go to Mitchell Community College. And, you know, at first you have to take all, like, the prerequisite stuff, so you don't really... I didn't know exactly what I want to do. So I was flirting with a lot of different things. Like at one point I thought I might be a nurse. One point I thought I might do a journalism. Obviously, I'll say obviously now, but mental health was something that always stood out to me because of my own mental health. When I was 16, that's when I first started to experience depression, like serious depression, right? Now, I didn't know that at the time, but I can look back on it now and be like, oh, I was going through a depression. But so I was just trying different things. And then I think it was 2014 or 2015, I ended up going to therapy, actually. I had a gentleman, his name's Frank Archibald. He's like a father figure to me. Wow. And I disclosed to him kind of what I was going through. And to my surprise, he was like, that's not normal, dude. So he took me to a place called, it's called Daymark. They have a place out in Statesville. And I started doing group therapy. And I knew that was an option. And so I was like, oh, I want to be a psychologist, man. Yeah. Like that was, you know, the next thing I wanted to do. And so I started that grind and applied to UNC Charlotte to their psychology program. That was the only program I applied to. I got in. I was doing that for I think the program was like a 2-year program. About a year and a half into it, I really didn't have any traction or nothing. And I remember there was a professor, I think his name was Dr. Faust or something like that. He would have these lectures and I needed help with one of his assignments. Now, in his lectures, it showed you basically, it broke everything down how to do it. And so I went to go talk to him, and he looked at the stuff. He's like, "Oh, this is pretty good little stuff." I'm like, "Well, I just copied what you did, you know?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, what do you plan on doing?" I was like, "Oh, I want to do counseling or psychology." He was like, "Oh, well, I can write you a referral to this other guy, and he can get you a." And I'm like, "All right, cool, bet, do it."
Yeah.
And so I ended up doing that. And I know it's kind of a long-winded story, but
this is awesome.
yeah. So in the midst, so he referred me to a guy's name was Dr. McNulty. And then when I talked to Dr. McNulty, and he's like, well, "Okay, what do you want to do?" And I told him some of my background. He was like, "Oh, there's an opportunity for a place called Center for Community Transitions, where essentially what it does is help people who are incarcerated transition back into society." And I'm like, "Cool, that's right up my alley."
Yeah,
Perfect.
Of course, yeah.
So I ended up doing that internship. And while I was in there in one of the classes, there was a lady, I think her name was Jennifer Fisher. And I remember asking her, I was like, "What are you doing here?" She said, "Oh, I'm a counselor. I'm a therapist." I'm like, "Really? Oh, that's what I'm trying to do as well." She was like, "Yeah, well, I just got my degree. I got a master's of social work degree from UNC Charlotte." I'm like, "Really?" And so at this time, my main thing is just being a psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
But what I didn't know at the time was that like 70% of our country's clinicians and therapists are actually social workers.
Okay.
Right. And so once I found out they had an open house, it was like maybe a couple weeks after that, I attended the open house, and they were telling me that, "Hey, we have these 25 scholarships, full ride scholarships or whatever. And last year we had to delay it because we couldn't find anybody to get them. And also we need men. We can't find any men to get into the program." So of course I'm like,
right.
Sign me up, dog. You know? And so long story short, I ended up signing up for that. I got into the program, and yeah.
So too often you hear, whether it's media or whatever, when someone gets in trouble, whether they're committing felonies or going to jail, whatever, especially at a young age, people tend to maybe give up on them, or they keep going down the wrong path or whatever. It sounds like you're like one of the most prime examples of rehabilitation and getting back and kind of working through it. One, is that a sense of pride for you of like not making it out, but like almost turning your life full 360, and now coming full circle, you have this effect on other people who maybe have been in that same spot.
Yeah.
If so, what would you say to maybe that person who's going through troubles or knows a family member who is in those situations where they're maybe not going down the best path? Like, you're someone who's kind of flipped it around.
Yeah.
So, like, do you get a sense of pride? And then if so, like, what would you say to someone who maybe is going down that same path?
Yeah. Definitely get a sense of pride, man. I mean, again, as I kind of maybe mentioned earlier, where it's like where I come from, I can tell that this isn't necessarily the norm. Right. I think that I'm more of a exception to the rules. Okay. If I could say it that way. And if I could say anything for anybody, just keep going, man. Don't give up, man. Like, that's kind of the big thing, man. You really want to just continue to grind and work at it, man. Like, it's not something that's perfect. Even right now, I can't sit there and say that I have it figured out, or,
for sure.
You know, right now I'm obviously in a blessed position, but I know there's still more work to be done. Like, you can't get too comfortable with your achievements.
And it's amazing because it seems like, at least along the way, there were so many times that you could have just quit and it would have been way easier than continuing to go.
Like, right. Well, I have a tattoo on my leg that literally talks about like the only thing that I think that differentiates me and from someone else is just that I don't quit, right? And that's the only difference, right? It's like I've experienced every emotion possible, man. Like, you can't tell me I haven't felt that, but the difference is just I just don't quit, right? And I'll take breaks. You know, I definitely will take breaks. But like I said, like the one night I cried, I slept on it, I woke up, dust myself off.
Yeah.
So do you feel like this whole, like, I mean, honestly, you've experienced so much before you even got into this career. Do you feel like this perspective really helps you be better at what you do now in your career?
Oh, 100%. I think a big part of what I try to maintain is empathy for people, right? And understanding what they're feeling and what they're going through. And like, hey, man, you're not alone. I get it, right? But at the same time, you got to keep going, man. Like, take a break, but you got to get back up there, man.
So obviously, like, you're not allowed to talk about specific scenarios and people. As general as you can be, do you feel it's a challenge to guide people in the right way without giving too much of your personal opinion? Or do you feel like, where do you find that line? And like, I've been to therapy, multiple therapists in my lifetime. And like, I always found like a really good therapist is someone that like was just able to like get me to like realize, unspin this web in my head, and then all of a sudden be like, "You're good. You are good. Thanks for that." So is that like a real big challenge you face, and do you ever kind of want to be a little maybe tougher than you're saying, or do you ever want to be like,
right? Yeah, definitely, man. I think that's one of the hardest things. Sometimes it's like I know what you should be doing, quote unquote, but allowing you to try to figure it out, and that's super hard, man. It is super hard, but I think it's a practice thing where when I think about life in general, it's all about practice. And so it's something that I'm constantly working at, where sometimes I am better at it, where I can sit back and depending on what I'm going through, right? But if I got stuff going on in my own life or whatever it is, you know, you become dysregulated. I'm more likely to say something that I probably shouldn't say, but I'm very, with anybody that I work with, I try to be as honest as I can. And I'll say, hey, I fucked up right there.
Yeah.
I probably said a little too much right there. I let my emotions get the best of me, but that's out of it's out of a good place where I really care about you. I really want to see the best out of you, and so people really respect that. You know.
So for our listeners, this is we try and, you know, obviously we're a Christian-based podcast. We try and bring you the very best we can. And I just want to say something about James, and this is why I really hope you guys pay attention. His honesty and transparency. Like, a lot of people wear 3 masks, right? Like, they're showing everybody something different. Like, the fact that you guys are getting someone with so much experience in his field, like, and you're getting this honesty, I really hope you're soaking it in, because I feel like he's about to provide a lot of valuable insight. So let's just keep on going. You want me
to spit a fact real quick on our next topic? So
before we get gritty, let's get some facts out there.
So we want to dive into mental health as a whole, right? And especially if you have not gone to school for it or whatever, it feels like mental health has gotten more popular. And I'm going to read a fact real quick, which we can dive into. It's in high school students, 40% of high school students experience symptoms of depression. Now, this is going to age us a bit, but I'm almost in my 30s and they're in their 30s. I feel, at least, as if when we were going through school, high school especially, you didn't hear about depression. None of our friends had anxiety or whatever like that. And now that could mean 2 things. It could mean either it wasn't talked about enough, and maybe we did, like you even mentioned, and we just didn't know it. Or it could mean maybe the power of social media and people are overexposing themselves or whatever it might be, and maybe it's a mix of both. Have you personally seen it, mental health, just people talking about it, become more popular? And if so, is it a problem? Were we a problem when we were growing up? Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, right. I think that it's definitely more popular as in a sense that it's more awareness of it. But I think it's always been there, right? Again, it's just a matter of generations where if you were sad or depressed or something like that, they might have thought you were just...
Yeah, you mask it. Right,
you mask it, and people are still masking now. Like, so even some of those statistics, like I would argue or I would believe, without me looking at the numbers, that number is probably greater, especially for the youth, man. Like, I think that their social media is a double-edged sword, and I think it's one of those things that can cause a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression, because it's like, you know how it is when you're younger. You think that if you don't have X, Y, and Z, this means X, Y, and Z, you know, like
you're comparing yourself.
You're comparing yourself constantly, man. And I think the youth, they have a greater challenge when it comes to that, because they're constantly subjected to it. Where, again, before, I remember when we had like instant messenger, like that was a thing. And I remember telling my homie, like, let's go outside. Like, I don't want to get on that. And like, we had more disconnect, where right now it's like you're constantly in it. And so I don't think that it's something that is not real. It's something that's very real. It's just that we're now in a space where we're more comfortable talking about it.
That makes sense.
Do you think there's on the other side, do you think there's also a line where people are too quick now or not even too quick to identify they have an issue, but almost give themselves, or are people getting into this catch-22 where now their first scapegoat is, no, I have depression, I need to not do this?
Right.
Do you see that as an issue? Or?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's something like trying to help differentiate for people. Is like, yes, you may suffer from depression. And even when I say suffer from depression, like, I think it's important to understand, like, clinical depression, for example, we're looking at a set of symptoms, right? And so if you have X amount of symptoms and you experience these symptoms for X amount of time, we'll say, hey, you have major depression disorder, or you have generalized depression or anxiety disorder, right? Yeah. But the symptoms don't tell you why the person's experiencing what they're experiencing, right? So why are you depressed? Yeah. That's the question I'm always asking. Yeah. Why are you anxious? Right? And try to figure out what the root of it is. But some people will try to use that as a crutch and like it's part of their identity now, right? Like, so because I'm autistic, I can't X, Y, and Z. Yeah. No, you just learn differently, right? And so you got to figure out how do you learn and how to best maneuver these things.
Yeah. Wow. Do you think that these also, like, I know I mentioned, that as a scapegoat. Do you see a lot of struggle now? This is probably really tough for you. People relying on medicine too much, or are we at a point now where you think that medicine, obviously it can be a really good thing, but do you feel like we're using it too much, or do you feel like we're starting to use utilize the benefits of it more? Where do you think we are with that?
I think medicine has a huge stigma behind it, and I would actually almost say that I feel like it's underutilized, and I feel like a lot of that has to do with misinformation about what's the purpose for medication. Like, so for example, somebody who may deal with some type of chronic depression or anxiety or something like that, it's not because that person is mentally weak or anything like that. It's just a chemical imbalance where your body is not producing enough of a certain neurotransmitter, right? Yeah. So for example, one of the common ones that somebody will take is something called an SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So essentially what your brain's doing, or what the medication is doing, is trying to increase the amount of serotonin in your brain. And serotonin, what that does, that helps with mood and stabilizing and things like that. And like for some reason, some people, they just have less of it.
Yeah. So like, how do you get there with a person from someone in your seat, right? So specifically, let's say to the person who's not going through a serious traumatic event, such as a death or whatever, a divorce, something like that, to a normal person who just feels off, but maybe that's the root of it. How do you end up getting there with that patient or that client?
What do you mean getting there as far as like
how do you end up like diagnose someone? Do you have these certain methods that you're using? Like, you just talk to the person and get to the root of it?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it will have to do with the assessment, right? So one of the first things that I'm going to do with somebody, or the first thing I'm going to do, is something called a biopsychosocial. So I'm trying to look at, there's three components. There's a biological component, there's the psychological component, and then there's the social and economic component, right? Okay. And so it's a, what do they call it? A Venn diagram, essentially. And in the middle of those three circles, we have what we call mental health. I would argue that that's just health. Right. And so I'm trying to look at what is contributing to this person's symptoms. Right. Is it something biological, as I just mentioned? Like, is it because the person has low dopamine? Right. Or is it because the person has what we call comorbidity, which means that a lot of times when someone's experiencing some type of mental health, so say like ADHD, for example, most times that's not a standalone thing. Most times that person also is dealing with anxiety and or depression or something like that. Then I want to look at the social and economic side of things, like, okay, what is the person doing for work, right? What does their family circle look like, right? What are their finances like? So if I'm a father and I have a wife and kids and I work a job, I'm making $50,000 a year, right? But I'm not able to make ends meet. Of course, the person's going to probably feel what? Depressed. Of course, they're probably going to feel anxious, right? Or if they're working, let's say night shift at their prison guard or some shit like that, right? Where they have to be on full alert all the time, right? That's going to impact that person's well-being. Then you got to look at the psychological side of things, right? That's where you're looking at, okay, what's the person, how are they coping? What are your coping skills look like? What's your self-esteem like? Perception, right? How do you view things? Do you see things as half full or half empty, right? Yeah.
So there's obviously a lot that goes into it. You're not very quick to just, it's not.
Boom.
Yeah. Okay.
Boom.
So once you have this established, do you find, I guess, is it, obviously, I'm sure you're not relying on medicine itself. Is it medicine, cognitive behavioral therapy? Are you trying to change the or are you trying to create neuroplasticity and get the brain to change? What's your goal as a therapist?
So it depends on what the person's dealing with, right? And so, but for me, I'm big into, you talked about CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy. And so with that, it's these three points in it, right? It's looking at how our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors influence our emotions. And so for me, I'm big into focusing on how we think and what we do.
Okay.
I'm not so concerned with our emotions and our feelings, because what most people do, or a lot of people do, is they based off how they feel, it based off what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Right. If I feel like shit, I'm not doing shit.
Correct.
And so I try to get people into the idea of, let's say, if it's depression, one of the main symptoms of depression is going to zap your motivation. That's one of the first things it's going to do.
Yeah.
There's also something called anhedonia, where it's going to strip your pleasure. So like things that you would enjoy doing before, well, let's say working out, hanging out with friends, it's no longer going to be enjoyable, right? And so trying to focus on the things that you can control, which is your behaviors, or in the case of our thoughts, trying to reframe, right? I don't know if that answers your question.
So kind of like an inside-out approach. Like working from the inside out, not worrying too much about external factors. Is that what
I mean, and it seems like it's starting with the small steps too, right? Like, here are the things that we can try to do to get you back on the positive track, and work towards it, which we've even talked about a lot of, like, whether it's a good routine, whether it's something that I love that helps me with my mentals, going on a walk. Nikki's on that train now too, right?
Yeah, I mean,
something as simple as that, right? Where I can take some time out, go on a walk, and that works wonders for your mentals, right? So it's almost taking a step back and saying, how can we get back to the basics and get you out of bed, right? I'm sure that's the first thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and some there's science behind why walking works, right? Part of that has to do with our stress response system. And so what I mean by that is, like, when we're walking through space and we're seeing like objects move closer to us, it signals to the brain that, hey, we're safe, because it's an evolutionary.
Wow.
It's
we can cut this out.
Evolutionary byproduct, right? So you think about it, as you're moving through the woods or the jungle or whatever, as you're looking for danger, right? You're looking for the slightest movement, right? And so again, if I'm not seeing anything, it helps tell the brain that, hey, I'm safe. And so that's one of the reasons, like, going out and jogging and walking is so important.
So are people's natural instincts generally counterintuitive? Like, if they're depressed, they're gonna stay inside. Meanwhile, that's like the last thing they should do, or
Boom. A lot of times, you want to kind of go against what it's telling you. Well, part of
it's hard, right?
And so I think too, to understand anxiety and depression, for example, they are the main goal. Do you guys know what the goal? What's anxiety and depression doing? Why do we experience that?
I don't, and I don't think our viewers do either.
Right,
or some of them might not.
Well, part of it is they're trying to protect you. So what it's going to do, like I said, like if you're depressed, it's going to strip you of your motivation, because it's trying to protect you from the danger of whatever it is. Anxiety, it's going to cause you to avoid.
That's what's causing whatever it is.
Right. And so it's going to try to get you to. It's trying to protect you, but a lot of times it'll end up misfiring, right? Is like I would like to say, like, so when you think of like trauma, for example, when I think of trauma, it's probably something going on, or can be, not in all cases, it's something going on with your autonomic nervous system, right? And that's the stuff that's involuntary control, like, so your breathing, pupil dilation, digestion, stuff like that. Where was I going with that?
We were just talking, pretty much, we were talking about how it's counterintuitive to do things that are right.
And so a lot of times what you want to do the thing that it's telling you not to do. So again, so like when it comes to anxiety, one of the big things that anxiety is going to do, it's going to cause somebody to avoid, right? But what you're actually doing is you're actually making it worse by avoiding that said thing, because now when you avoid it, it actually makes it worse. Now you're going to become more anxious.
100. So I can even speak from like, from my standpoint, I truthfully have never been to a therapist. Should I have been to a therapist many times? Yes, 100%. What you just said there speaks to like when I've been through like super anxious. First thing I do is avoid.
Right.
Avoid Nick's phone calls.
Right.
But in general, like thinking back, probably was I overly anxious? Yeah, and I'm just shutting out the world. It's probably so common. So like from that standpoint of things, think about like the common man, right? You're going to your work, you're feeling mundane, but nothing traumatic has happened. What do you like, what would you say to that person that like maybe hasn't gone through an event but is going through those little struggles where they're starting to feel like they're spending more time at home, being more of a homebody, or trying to avoid the world? Like, how do you develop that to where maybe it's time to go talk to someone? Like, something doesn't just
or
flip,
how do
does
you,
it?
yeah, how
Or-
do you become aware? Like,
Yeah.
at what point should someone start to wonder, like, do I need to go speak to someone?
Right. I think the easiest way to maybe look at it is start to impair your professional or personal life, right? How much of an impact is it having on your quality of life,
Yeah.
right? And so if now, I'm constantly getting into it with my wife, right? Or if I am not as happy with X, Y, and Z, that's kind of where you maybe want to go decide to go talk to somebody. Like,
That's true.
it's like anything else. Like, you know, if your car is having issues, unless you're a mechanic, what are you going to do? You're going to take it to somebody to.
Yeah.
Same thing when it comes to mental health,
great
man.
point.
It's the same thing where, hey, man, something's off. Let me go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, what they're going through, I've heard it 1,000 times, and a big thing that we need as people, we need reassurance, we need validation. And so a lot of times what I try to help to people is normalize what they're experiencing. Okay, you're feeling depressed. Well, it makes sense you're depressed because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
This is why you're depressed, right?
Make them feel more human and like
Right,
realize like
right,
I'm not alone.
Right. And it has nothing to do with you being a man, being a woman, or anything like that. It's just that this is what happens to us naturally as humans when we X, Y, and Z.
So that's so interesting about all of like that counterintuitive approach, like because I know with OCD it's that similar approach. There was a study at I think UCLA. There's this book Brain Lock, but it's pretty much your OCD creates a scenario where you get anxious on purpose because it's your body's way of protecting itself. So it's this sick cycle that's so hard to get out of.
Right.
I guess like when people get to this point of like they're feeling helpless, they know they need help, but they one don't know where to go for help, and then two, how do I get help? What are the easiest steps they can do to just say, all right, and maybe they're embarrassed, maybe they don't want people to know.
Right.
What do you say to those people?
Right. Well, I think one of the easiest things to do when you think about technology would be to use your computer as far as trying to find a counselor, a therapist, or something like that. But you know, one of my big things when I talk to people about therapy or counseling or anything like that is like my big saying is I believe therapy is for everyone. However, every therapist isn't for everyone. I liken it to a romantic relationship. As we're younger, we can date anybody, right? And it doesn't really too much matter. But as you get older, you start realizing that, hey, there's certain things that I need, and you got to have a certain level of connection.
Beliefs, all that too.
Right. And you got to be able to make a connection. And I think that's probably the most important thing when it comes to counseling or therapy is finding that connection, somebody you can feel safe with and be able to talk through shit with. Now, it may not be the first session. I know when I went to therapy, it wasn't until like maybe the fourth session where I was like, okay, this is my person, right? Because the first few times I'm thinking that, she's not listening.
Yeah.
But then she called me out and then she was cursing.
Yeah.
Not cursing at me, but she was, and that to me, it resonated with me like, ooh, that's raw.
Do you ever see the flip side of it where now you're in the therapist's seat? Like, would you ever tell this person, hey, maybe I'm not the right therapist for you, but...
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Because for me, I try not to have an ego with it. Like to me, it's about your health, right? And it's a
counselor.
good, right. It sometimes it may be just me. I'm not meeting your needs, right? And I think that's where the person has to do some self-evaluation. Now, I try not to be the person who tells people to, try not to pull that card out too quickly, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because sometimes you just got to kind of work through it.
Yep.
But it is something where it takes time. It is a process. And even if you find somebody that, okay, we initially have a connection and it works, sometimes you can outgrow it, right? Where it's now there's no more, it's not a matter of what you're hearing anymore. Now you just maybe need a new voice or you need somebody else in a different part of your life.
Yeah.
So it just depends, man.
That's amazing.
Yeah, do you find it, I guess I'm sure, like I said, I know you can't talk about specific scenarios, but in general, would you say that there's, like, how quick is somebody do people not even realize like the onion, like, like how many people do you really have to peel back so many layers to be like, this is really what's going on? And I'm saying this for the sake of maybe our listener thinks they can figure this out by themselves easily. And why would they need a professional like yourself?
Right.
Like, is that the case a lot of times? Like, do you got to really dig deep to find out what's going on?
Yeah. And I think you need sometimes someone else to, like I think you mentioned earlier, where sometimes the person will help you kind of pull it out of yourself. And they're likely using something called the Socratic method, right? Where you're having the person through question what they're thinking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you need a guide, you need an outside perspective. And something about when the person is in counseling or therapy, especially when they're feeling good, it's like they're there to change, they're there to improve.
Yeah.
And so they're more likely to, through the questioning asking and the interaction for them to have that aha moment where, okay, this makes sense to me. But you need sometimes that person to kind of ride along with you.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure you see it where someone sits in that chair on day one and they're blocked off and they're a lot more closed off because one, you're developing that relationship, right? I don't fully know you yet. I don't trust you.
Yeah.
But then it's got to be amazing for you to see the aha moment, and now they're opening up, being vulnerable, embracing the therapy process. That's got
right. Yeah, that's one of the best feelings ever when you have those clicks, those aha moments.
Yeah.
But I try to get them to also understand that those sometimes are far few and in between. Like,
Yeah.
you won't always have that right away. Like, we want that instant gratification. Like, sometimes it'll take a while, man, before something will click. And even if it clicks, it doesn't mean that that's going to result in instant change, right?
Yeah.
When you understand how change really works in a human, it's incremental. We incrementally improve or change. And a lot of people want it right away.
Oh, that's we could even talk about it. We talk about that a lot. Like today's era of TikTok, and we only watch 6-second videos and all that. We want everything now. We get everything now. We get a package the same day. That's similar to therapy, I'm sure. Where they're like, solve my problems, do this today. Like that's gotta be hard to deal with, right?
Right.
For any person anywhere, they feel like things are going well in their life. Maybe they're just not hitting goals, whatever. Maybe they don't feel like they're depressed. Do you find there to be value in just going to therapy regardless? Maybe not, I'm not saying go weekly, but do you think there's a lot of value there just to, kind of keep those healthy approaches to things?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think it's easy for us to regress, right? And that's naturally how our brain is wired, right? And our brain is an efficiency creature, and I guess way to maybe you can kind of put it, where when they say if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Well, your brain's going to start to prune itself, right? And so if you're not doing certain things, it's going to start pruning itself. And so it is a lot of value. Like I've seen somebody right now, I got a couple people probably seen me for about 4 years, right? And it's nothing major that they're dealing with, but it is a space where, hey, we can process certain things, or a space where you can just talk about things that you can't necessarily talk about with your spouse or your partner, right? Or you can't necessarily, one of the things I think sometimes is frustrating is like when you're trying to talk to somebody about something and they start giving you advice, right? Or they start telling you what you should or shouldn't do. And sometimes what I've learned is people don't necessarily need that. They just need somebody just to hear them out, right? And also ask them, okay, well, what do you need from me in this moment right now? Do you
want the answer, or do you want to just be heard? Like,
right. So there's 100% value in that. And again, when you think about relationships and stuff like that, like, let's say your frustration is with your partner, right? How do you address that with them? Or you maybe have told all your family and friends, and now who do I talk to, right? And sometimes you need that other person.
It's funny that you say that, just about like having someone to talk to. I'm constantly like I'm always trying to be better. So like I'll look up like and get information and in the Word, how do I be a better husband? And I find this, that, just being your wife's rock. Like when they tell you what's going on, they're not asking to be fixed. They're not asking, like, they just want to know that you're that strong safety net always.
Right.
Just talking to them. So you were mentioning like having a hard time talking to people because you're afraid of what you'll get back. It definitely seems in society today, especially with social media, like you mentioned, everybody's trying to be something. Like, who they show the world is not who they really are. Do you find that, like, I guess kind of circling back to the social media, do you find that a lot of people are like appearing one way on the outside, and how far is it from their reality that they're internally going,
Yeah, all the time, man. And I think that's one of the things that can cause somebody to be anxious or depressed, because who I'm presenting, I'm not actually am, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it gets deep, man. Like, again, I don't want to go into anything specific, but I can think of some people who were they're on platforms where you would see this person, let's say on the news, right? And they present one way, but in reality, they are just super anxious. They're crumbling. They're barely holding on, right?
And I just want to make this point, as he says that, just keep that in mind. One thing we really got to talk about a lot is, being empathetic. So whoever you're talking to, regardless of if they're having a good day, bad day, however they're treating you, you really never know what's behind that door. So just always treat them, like how they, really the way that God would want us to treat them. So I just want to mention that. And James, obviously so experienced. This is amazing having you on. Like you're honestly telling us so much.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot too. This is incredible. Yeah.
Is there any other things you really wanted to bring up?
Not like this doesn't really flow with that, but some things that I see are like the flip side of positive momentum when it comes to anxiety and depression, which would be vices, alcohol, drugs, whatever, lust, sex, anything like that. Like
these false realities.
Yeah, right. Like all these things that you go to maybe get that quick dopamine hit, right? Your phone, whatever it might be. Do you like how hard? I don't even know the question I'm even trying to ask, but you see that a lot of like people resulting to these quick fixes, right? If I go get drunk, that's gonna push the problem out of my head for 6 hours, but then guess what? The next day it's 10 times harder, right?
Right.
Do you see that a lot? Is that something that maybe?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And sometimes that can be a indicator that something's more going on, right? And so anytime I hear somebody who battles with substance abuse, I automatically think, okay, there's something going on.
Yeah,
they're trying to cope. With life. And now we got to figure out why you're doing that and try to hopefully figure out a different, more positive one, which again, it takes a lot of time.
Sure. Yeah. So do you think that when you're working through all that stuff, a lot of times are people surprised at a certain point because they didn't even know, like, oh man, I never dealt with that.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. And a lot of times and I can't sit there and act like I'm all knowing. Like I can know that something's off, but I don't always know why or what the actual reason is. But all the time.
Yeah.
So what are some things, I guess, as we're wrapping this up, I guess what I'd really want to get out of this are some, on the flip side where you were going, like what are some constructive things we can do on a daily basis or just in our life? Like what are some healthy things that we can do? Like, we want big muscles, strong muscles, we go to the gym. What are we going to do to get our brain in optimal shape?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with lifestyle and not looking at it like it's a quick fix. One of the things which my view on things changes also, often. Like as I get new information, I give you a new answer. So my answer for today, though, is like, I believe people problems are people problems, right? Where you may always struggle with addiction. That's your thing. Okay. This person may always battle with infidelity. This person may always battle with whatever that thing is. Okay. But I also think that as sometimes as I don't say depressing as that can feel, that's also should be something to kind of get you excited where it's like, I know that I just have to always work on this thing here. And so I think with mental health, you want to make it part of your lifestyle, man, and start understanding as far as what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Yeah.
So it's almost like instead of pushing it to the back, like tackling it head on.
Right.
How are we going to work through this?
Right. And so I think you guys mentioned something earlier about routine. I think routine is something that's very important for us. Like that's how our brain is wired, man. We need routine. Yeah. One of my favorite things is I always talk about something called active ingredients, meaning like what are the things that when you're feeling your best, what's in your life? What are you doing?
Oh, I like that a lot
too.
Right. That's a really, really helpful tip. So, maybe take notes, guys, when you're at your best, what's going on? Is that right?
Right, exactly. What are your active ingredients, man? And so for some people that may be working out, they may be X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I think about it as an art. And so figuring out what works for you. And so anything that I like present, for example, in therapy and say, okay, try this coping mechanism or try this coping skill. That may not necessarily work for you, but you got to figure out what does work with you. You got to make it your own thing. It's almost like you're exploring. You want to look at it like, instead of me thinking that, hey, I need to do this because of X, Y, and Z, no, you just want to be kind of figuring out what works for you and what doesn't, man.
Real quick, you were talking about routines, and earlier we were talking about like going outside and all these things that are good. So obviously there's probably times in people's lives when they are more apt to a routine or whatever. Do you see that seasonal change in people or?
Yeah, 100%. One of the busiest times for mental health is typically around, I would say maybe September till maybe around February, March.
Wow.
And a lot of that has to do with sun, a lack of sun exposure, and then the holidays. Most people think about the holidays as this joyous, great time, but it's actually a lot of trauma and depression that comes along with that for a lot of people where whether that be from family history or it comes from maybe a lack of being able to provide, as we kind of mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah.
As a man, I want to be able to get my family this and the third, but I can't do it. And so it's very common that people tend to have more anxiety and depression around this time of the year.
So even somebody not having a great childhood memory of holidays, that could be a trigger as well. Like just
100%.
that, yeah, like
100%, 100%. And then think about all the money you have to spend and things like that. Yeah. It can be very depressing. It can be very anxiety inducing, man.
You know what John got me last year for Christmas?
What did you get?
Nothing.
No,
absolutely.
And he's been depressed about it ever since.
No. We're not making jokes of the situation, but I do think humor helps a lot.
Yeah. Humor is a great coping mechanism. There's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Viktor Frankl. He was a survivor of the Holocaust.
Oh yeah, he had that mindset of pretty much like no matter what happens, but his like family died and stuff.
Yep. His wife, his parents, his children, they all died in the Holocaust. And he talked about how humor was one of those things that helped those people keep going. Really? And like a lot of the first responders I work with, they have a lot of dark humor, right? And it's a coping mechanism. Like even myself, within the office, we have some dark humor. I wouldn't necessarily say with people, but it's actually something that helps us.
So it can be a positive thing.
Oh yeah, but it also can, like anything, can be a toxic, right? If all you ever do is joking, and it's like, dude, you can't take nothing serious. But humor is a great tool.
Yeah. Wow. So you were talking about the seasonal depression. Would you say that present day society and the sedentary lifestyle, the office work, the working from home, do you think that this has a negative impact on us? And do you think it'll continue to, or where do you think that's going?
Yeah, I think it has a big a role in those things. And the way things are kind of heading, I could see it still maybe even getting worse, right? Because people are getting out more or getting out less. Or if you have people who are working remote, well, one of the things that we need as humans is we need connection. Yeah. We need human interaction. Yeah. If you're getting less of that, it could actually be making it worse for you because I'm not getting that human to human contact.
You bet you were in the field during COVID, right?
Yeah.
Did you see one of the stats that we haven't even read yet was that 25% of additional people were diagnosed with some sort of anxiety or depression post COVID? Did you see a big that weighing an impact on people?
100%. I think there's historical, in a historical proportion, like it's had a huge impact on people's mental health. Like even to this day, I'll talk to people, when did it start? And they'll talk about COVID, when they were isolated, when they weren't able to get out as much and things like that. So a huge thing. And even like we talk about kids and online, that's had a big impact on them as well, because for part of their lives, a big part of their formative years, they were online, right? Yeah. And so now they're going back into these school systems and stuff like that. And now they don't really know how to interact and stuff like that.
That's so interesting. I wonder if we're going to see, hopefully not, but I wonder if we're going to see that be a problem in 10 years of that generation who've never dealt with that. Yeah, it's definitely, obviously right now in our country, we're struggling with a lot of very serious things. What's a positive way that anybody can just how can we carry, any suggestions on how we should be carrying ourselves, talking to people when it comes to those touchy subjects, just really like in a time to come together? Do you have any advice or tips on like a way to approach healthy conversation with people and really just camaraderie?
Yeah, I think trying to find common ground and finding things that you can relate with people. Mm-hmm. One of the easiest ways to make somebody go crazy or make them depressed or anything like that is to separate them, is to isolate them, right? And so you want to be able to continue to maintain strong connections with people. And so, again, I don't want to get too political or anything like that, but like that's one of those things that can easily cause somebody to disconnect from people. And so sometimes I think it's about trying to put some of those things to the side and maintain those relationships and find common ground. And so for certain things I know I can't have a conversation with you about, just try to avoid those things, man. But you want to be able to try to maintain those relationships.
Yeah. Is there something healthy too to like understanding someone else, even if they might disagree with you?
100%. Again, that kind of goes back to empathy, where to me, empathy is, I don't necessarily have to go through what you're going through, but I can try to put myself in your shoes and say, man, how would I feel if my dog died, right? Yeah. And I can kind of feel that, right?
Yeah. Is that a skill that you think, or a trait that you think people are born with, that you can develop? Like,
I think that's a natural thing that we have, but when we think about like trauma and stress and things like that, it causes an erosion when it comes to that. So a lot of times where, like, for example, first responders, they may come into the job where they're hey, I love people, this, and the third, but they start to see deterioration.
Yeah.
And so like the opposite of empathy would be apathy. That's the lack of feeling.
Okay.
But that's your body's way of protecting you, right? Because if I continue to go to work and I'm constantly feeling all these people pain and hurt, it's going to fuck me up.
Start to get numb.
You get numb. So your body's going to dissociate, which again, that's a defense mechanism your body's going to do. It's trying to help you.
So you just made me think of something. A few months ago, we were driving down the road, and this is a sad story, but I was on the phone with Claire, I was with my teammates, and it was like, I've seen car accidents, but I've never seen a crazy one. And we watched the Jeep flip. We pull over, we run up to the car. The guy was on the other side of the road getting CPR. The woman was coming out of the Jeep, had no idea where she was. And then I remember talking to the first responder, or a guy off duty helping. I knew I didn't know what to do, so I just was pretty much like, hey, what do you need from like me and us? Like, what can we do to help around? And I said, like, what about that guy over there? And I was referring to the guy that got thrown in the highway. And his wife was coincidentally also a first responder, and she was giving him CPR. But he said to me, and I'll never forget, like, he looked right at me, and he's like, that guy's probably dead. And then just, I kind of had this feeling of, like, that seemed cold. But do you think, like, I guess being in that field and working with so many of these people, I guess it's not necessarily cold. It's just, it could be one, a coping mechanism, and two, just kind of desensitized, or
100%. Again, because if that guy, that's you seeing that one time, he's probably seen that countless times before, right? And again, your brain's going to be like, in order for me to continue to be able to provide, in order to continue to do this job, I have to be desensitized. And so, like, when we think about like PTSD or something like that, a lot of times what that will look like is that person can no longer be desensitized to the thing. Now they're overreacting. Now they're hypersensitive to certain things, right? So loud sounds that may trigger them now. But yeah, man, that's definitely a byproduct of the job. And so I think it's important to have purpose and meaning behind what you're doing. And when we think about like suffering, for example, I try to think about like, well, how do you find meaning within it? And sometimes that for people would be maybe faith, right? And so like one of the best anti-anxiety or antidepressant someone could have, it would be some type of spirituality.
Yeah.
And so trying to help them reconnect to that or whatnot.
I guess, do you think that there is possible, like I know, and I could be very wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, please.
Which I don't know everything, so I could be wrong. I probably said a lot of wrong shit, I don't know.
From my understanding, I never really, we've talked, like obviously we've been friends for so long, so I don't think I ever really dove deep with you. Like I have OCD and all that. And something that I was taught, or, I think this was actually taught to me by a therapist, but like they were saying PTSD is like kind of like the opposite of OCD, where that one's external factors and OCD's internal factors. Like I'm creating the problems myself. Do you think that between the two, or I guess what you see with people, not specifically OCD and PTSD, do you see a lot of people suffering more inside or more outside? And I guess depending on what the scenario is, do we approach how we get healthier differently?
Yeah, well,
that was a loaded question.
Loaded question, but I think that a lot of it's internal, man. Like even with PTSD, like the person could know that, hey, this doesn't rationally make sense, yet they're still overreacting to it, right? And again, that goes back to their autonomic nervous system where it's misfiring. Right. Same thing when you think about like OCD, like there's parts of the brain that are essentially misfiring, right?
Doesn't listen. I'm like,
it doesn't listen, and you can't rationalize with it. I don't know if that answers the question.
No, yeah, I guess I was wondering really, like when someone has any issue and they're really struggling, is it more from a point of I need to retrain my brain, like how much, and I don't want to, let's take PTSD out of the equation. I'm just talking about generalized anxiety now. Like how much should we be, because we can't control a lot of things, right? We can't control what happens on the outside. So like what kind of work do we need to do internally in order to kind of prepare ourselves for whatever's going to happen and relieve that anxiety?
Yeah. Well, I think a big part of it would be acceptance. That's a huge component of it, right? Learning to accept the things you can't change. I think that's something like you get out of the serenity prayer, man.
Sure, yeah.
And so like with anxiety, for example, or OCD or something like that, some of it is just acknowledging what's going on and then accepting like, hey, this is what's happening. and trying to allow it to pass by. If that makes sense.
Is there a natural reaction to be like, almost say that's not really happening, create a false reality for ourselves? Are we do you think a lot of people that have that anxiety are trying to run away from it instead of hitting it head on and be like, no, that, is that the better way to go? So that's the better way to go. No, that's real.
Yeah.
And once you establish that's real,
right,
then start working on constructive ways to hit it head on.
Again, where you go into acceptance, where you got to kind of be able to accept, this is just maybe how my brain is. Hey, I am just somebody who's prone to be anxious. I'm just somebody who's prone to be depression. It's not until we're able to accept things that it enables us to be able to actually change, right? And so, for example,
that was powerful right there.
Yeah.
If we want to change, we need it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
It really, it hit me. If I think that's important. If we really want to change it, if you're wondering why are things not changing, it's right there. We need to really hit things head on. This is the reality. So
boom, 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 boom. And a lot of people are living in a level of denial where, again, it can come in oh, I'm not anxious, or I don't have trauma, or I don't have this and that.
It goes back to the masking thing, right? Where you're trying to mask these problems and you don't think you actually have it, but hey, maybe you do.
Yeah, and that's the key, man. And ultimately, it's acceptance, and then accepting the things, and kind of going back to, again, kind of the serenity prayer. You want to be able to accept the things you can't change, but then you want to focus on the things that you can. Yeah. And so, again, if we go back to the CBT triangle, for example, with behaviors, I want to focus on that. Yeah. Right. I'm going to focus on what I do and how I do it versus, Yeah.
Wow, this is so much insight. Yeah. I think you gave us way more than we not necessarily expected, but anticipated. Yeah. This is really exciting. Seriously.
I've noticed one thing, and I think this is a good wrapping point here. So you talk with your hands, like us Italians do. Maybe how Sebastiano.
Your mother.
I don't know. Yeah. So I've noticed a bracelet you're wearing. This is video. Can you tell us what you're wearing and why? Why is it important? Do you always wear it? What does it say?
It says, don't give up, and you are enough. And essentially, I had a friend who ended up killing himself. And this is kind of a constant reminder that you want to continue to try to fight, man. Yeah. Wow. And so you just don't want to give up, man. You just want to keep fighting.
That's it. And that's a powerful reminder, too, of the smallest things to keep reminding yourself, no matter what you're going through. One, if you have a good support system, if you don't, go talk to someone, do whatever. But you are enough, right? You just keep going, right? James is a prime example. Keep going, right?
Just
you could have taken so many times of going the opposite route. And so, James, we appreciate all of this conversation. This helps us tremendously. Oh, yeah. It helps the audience tremendously.
We're going to provide a link at the end of this. You guys can click the link, and this way they can reach out to you. Are you taking on clients right now?
I am. This is prime time. So, yeah, if you need somebody to talk to, please reach out to me. And if I can't help you, I'll try to lead you into the right direction, man. I have no ego when it comes to mental health, man. So the best thing is just trying to get you the help you need.
And I'm sure throughout this podcast, you guys have learned that James is extremely empathetic and obviously very knowledgeable. So please don't feel afraid to reach out. And then if something's going on, you have a hard time reaching out to him, maybe reach out to us. We'll get you in contact with him. He obviously wants to help. So that's it.
Let's keep growing together.
Keep growing together.
One conversation at a time. And James, we appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Go Lions.
Oh.
All right, we'll end it, man.